Step into a ring where defeat means death, where foreign invaders poison your veins just to watch you fall, and your only choice is to fight until your last heartbeat. This is the brutal, true story of a master who refused to die on his knees. In the heart of Tianjin, China, a young boy named Hui Yuanjiao watches his father with absolute awe, a man who isn't just a martial artist, but the city's reigning champion, a lethal force who refines his skills day and night until he is virtually untouchable. To the world, this man is an invincible god of war, crushing anyone foolish enough to challenge him in a matter of seconds, and naturally, Hui wants nothing more than to walk in those exact footsteps. But destiny has dealt the boy a brutal hand, a severe case of asthma that shatters his dreams before they even begin, forcing his father to ban him from Kung Fu entirely because the grueling training required to become a master would literally kill him. Yet, looking at his father's endless wall of championship certificates, the fire inside Hui only burns hotter, driving him to sneak into the shadows, secretly spying on his father's training sessions and mimicking the deadly movements piece by piece. Then, everything changes when a notorious, ruthless rival arrives in the city, boldly challenging Hui's father to a high-stakes duel that draws a massive crowd, everyone fully expecting the local legend to obliterate the newcomer without breaking a sweat. And at first, the fight goes exactly as planned. Hui's father dominates the ring with terrifying precision, pushing the challenger to the absolute brink, filling young Hui's heart with pure pride. But just as the champion prepares to unleash a fatal, finishing blow, he suddenly freezes his fist, choosing mercy over murder because he knows the strike would instantly kill the man. It is a fatal act of honor. The rival seizes upon this hesitation, launching a vicious, dishonorable counterattack that catches the champion off guard, ultimately stealing the victory through sheer treachery. The crowd is left in stunned, furious silence, and the champion's loyal disciples are completely devastated by the blatant cheating. But the humiliation doesn't stop there. The rival's arrogant son steps forward, cornering young Hui and issuing a venomous challenge, boasting that just as his father crushed the champion, he will humiliate the son. Driven by blind rage and a desperate need to shatter the boy's sickening overconfidence, Hui accepts the challenge, completely ignoring the desperate warnings of his best friend, who begs him to walk away. It is a catastrophic mistake. With no formal training and a body weakened by disease, Hui is brutally beaten, left bleeding and broken on the dirt floor. The crushing weight of shame alters something deep within Hui's soul. The unbearable embarrassment of failing his family lineage sparks a dark, obsessive resolve, forcing him to swear a blood oath that he will never lose another fight as long as he breathes, and that the day he tastes defeat will be the day he dies. He vows to become his own master, a declaration so intense it terrifies his best friend, and immediately steals a sacred library manuscript filled with forbidden, advanced martial art techniques. When he returns home, his father furiously reprimands him for fighting, while his mother tries to shelter him, both parents begging him to abandon this violent path for his own survival. But the obsession has already taken root. Hui begins training in total secrecy behind his family's back, relying on his studious best friend to painstakingly translate the ancient, complex text into a manual he can actually understand. Through sheer, agonizing willpower, Hui executes the forbidden forms, radically transforming his body and pushing his combat conditioning to supernatural levels. He challenged the rival's son again and easily defeated him this time, proudly boasting about his skills to the praising crowd. Years passed, and Hui grew into an unstoppable, famous fighter, but tragedy took his father and wife, leaving him with only his mother and a young daughter. Unlike his strict father, Hui was lively and deeply loved his daughter. Remaining completely undefeated, he won countless victory documents, crushing foreign opponents like child's play. After every win, he celebrated at a hotel owned by his successful childhood friend, treating crowds of new disciples to free food and drinks, completely unaware of the massive bills piling up against him. Deep in debt and blinded by his own vanity, Hui was a shadow of the legendary fighter his father once was, and this broke the heart of his childhood best friend, a wealthy hotelier who never charged Hui a single dime for the massive bills his followers racked up. But seeing Hui get exploited day in and day out by fake parasites grew unbearable, prompting his friend to finally snap and tell him the cold, hard truth, that these so-called followers only flocked around him because of the free food and endless liquor, and the very moment the freebies stopped, they would vanish into thin air, urging Hui to cut the dead weight and build a circle of real, honorable disciples just like his father did. But consumed by his own ego, Hui completely brushed off the warning and walked away, completely unaware that tragedy was already brewing. Meanwhile, in the very same city lived Qin, a legendary master who was once his father's fiercest rival, known across China as an undefeated titan who had only stepped away from the ring due to his old age, and because the townspeople constantly mocked Hua, claiming he could never be recognized as a true grandmaster until he defeated Qin. A bitter tension simmered between them, leading to a tense confrontation where Qin calmly stated that if a fight was what Hua wanted, he would get it, but not today, before walking away, leaving Hua to return to his martial arts school where he poured his energy into training young kids, hoping they would one day surpass him. But the peace didn't last long, because days later, one of Hua's followers was brutally beaten by Qin, and the moment Hua found out, fury blinded his judgment, sending him storming straight into his friend's restaurant where Qin was celebrating his birthday with his entire family, having booked the entire venue for the special occasion, and right there, in front of Qin's loved ones, Hua demanded a duel to the death, ignoring Qin's attempts to defuse the situation for the sake of his family, while his restaurant friend desperately begged him to stop, warning him that a brawl would absolutely ruin the business. But consumed by rage, Hua turned on his own blood brother, hurling insults and severing their lifelong friendship in a heartbeat, leaving Qin with no choice but to accept the challenge, clearing the restaurant out as the two masters unleashed a barrage of breathtaking, high-stakes martial arts, matching each other blow for blow in an equal, brutal clash of titans where neither side refused to back down, until Hua, driven by absolute, uncontrollable malice, unleashed a series of fatal, devastating strikes, losing all grip on reality as his final, vicious blow ended Qin's life on the spot. And while Hua walked out of the restaurant to the roaring cheers of the ignorant crowd celebrating his victory, a dark storm was brewing on the other side, where Qin's devastated followers gazed upon his corpse with an insatiable, burning desire for blood. And when Hua finally returned home, he was greeted by an eerie, pitch-black silence, panic setting in as he searched the dark rooms only to discover the lifeless, butchered bodies of his mother and his daughter, a horrific retaliation by Qin's men that shattered Hua's world into pieces, driving him into a mad frenzy as he grabbed his weapon to slaughter every single one of Qin's followers. But on his way, he ran into his own disciples, who dropped a bombshell that crushed his remaining spirit, revealing that Qin had only beaten the follower because the man was caught harassing Qin's innocent wife, making Hua realize he had brutally murdered an honorable man over a lie, a crushing realization that made him abandon his toxic followers as he realized he had been protecting criminals. But the venom of revenge still pushed him to Qin's house where he ruthlessly killed Qin's son. Yet, just as he raised his blade against Qin's grieving widow and daughter, a sudden wave of clarity washed over him, realizing they were entirely innocent, prompting him to drop his weapon and flee into the night. Now completely abandoned by his best friend and stripped of everyone he ever loved, Hua was left utterly hollow, broken, and deeply suicidal, leading him to walk straight into the crashing ocean waves to end his miserable existence, until the distant sight of a drifting boat made him pause, choosing instead to climb aboard and let the currents take him wherever fate decided. But after days of aimless drifting, starvation and sickness took over, prompting him to throw himself back into the dark depths of the ocean to finally let go, only for a miracle to happen when local tribal villagers spotted him at the exact right moment, pulling his half-dead body from the water and bringing him to their secluded village to nurse him back to health. And though Hua eventually opened his eyes days later, his mind was completely shattered, leaving him a traumatized, unresponsive shell of a man who couldn't even comprehend how he survived, causing the frustrated villagers to eventually leave him to his own misery, except for a pure-hearted, blind village girl named Moon, who treated him with boundless kindness, constantly bringing him warm food and everyday essentials, showering him with unconditional care to help him bury his tragic past and realize that he was no longer alone in this world, giving Hua a glimmer of hope. Blessed with a second chance at life, Hua chose to embrace this new beginning, deciding to stay with the tribe and live out the rest of his days in pure peace, blending in seamlessly by doing the exact same daily chores as the villagers. And during this time, a deep, silent affection blossomed between him and Moon, drawing them incredibly close as they fell in love. But one fateful night, the tranquility shattered when some tribal children were caught red-handed stealing supplies, prompting the village chief to pass a strict sentence on the boy. And even though the child's desperate family begged for mercy, the laws of the tribe were absolute, leaving the chief completely unwavering. Seeing the heartbreak, Hua stepped forward and made a dramatic plea, offering to take the punishment upon himself so the children could return safely to their families, a selfless sacrifice that moved the chief to accept, though with a strict condition, because adult punishments were vastly different, forcing Hua into a trial by combat against the chief himself. And as the duel began, Hua's masterclass martial arts shined through as he effortlessly dodged every single blow, leaving the chief unable to land a single hit. Yet, the endless dodging began draining Hua's stamina because he hadn't trained or fought in years, allowing the chief to slowly overpower him. Seeing him cornered, the villagers began shouting, encouraging Hua to fight back instead of just defending, warning him that he would be severely wounded if he kept holding back. Taking their words to heart, Hua unleashed his true skills and swiftly defeated the chief, earning the leader's deep respect and admiration for his unparalleled skills. Through all of this, the tribe remained completely oblivious to Hua's bloody past, seeing him only as a humble, ordinary man, since Hua had never spoken a word about his former life. But as days turned into weeks, a deep yearning for his hometown and the memory of his family gripped his heart, prompting a heavy decision to return to the city just to pay his respects at his family's graves. And when he broke the news to Moon, she gently smiled, wishing him a safe journey while promising that she would faithfully await his return, leaving Hua to set off on the long road back home. But the moment he stepped into the city, his jaw dropped, finding the streets completely unrecognizable, swarming with chaotic crowds and strange, unfamiliar structures, only to discover that during his long absence, ruthless looters had ravaged the town, leaving the entire landscape altered. But worse still, China was now under harsh British colonial rule, changing the country's dynamics forever. Yet, when Hua finally reached his dilapidated estate, he was deeply moved to find his old loyal servants still there, tenderly taking care of the property. A joyous reunion that brought pure happiness to the old servant's face, before Hua immediately headed to his family's graves. Breaking down in tears as the beautiful memories of his past life flooded his mind, consumed by a profound desire to repent for his sins, Hua then walked straight to Chen's house, standing before Chen's widow to beg for absolute forgiveness, expressing the heavy grief he carried for letting his blind rage steal an honorable fighter's life, before rushing to his hotelier friend to seek redemption, explaining with deep humility that he was no longer the arrogant man he used to be, having reformed himself completely. After realizing how much pain his actions had caused others, right then, his friend informed him about a massive, high-stakes tournament happening in the city, featuring an incredibly brutal, seemingly invincible foreign fighter who had been ruthlessly conquering every local champion since Hua left, prompting his friend to give Hua financial backing, urging him to enter the ring and humble the dangerous titan. And when the day of the showdown arrived, Hua calmly requested the imperial judges to let the fight be judged on pure honor and respect to ensure total fairness. And as the bell rang, Hua initially struggled, his lack of practice showing as the massive opponent repeatedly slammed him onto the canvas. But the moment Hua tapped into his peak form, utilizing his signature, breathtaking techniques, he easily turned the tide, pushing the titan to the absolute brink, until a terrifying moment occurred where Hua's devastating strike almost sent his opponent's neck crashing into a sharp, lethal nail. But showing true mercy, Hua stopped his fist just in time to save the man's life. And because the foreign fighter possessed a noble warrior's heart, he realized he had been completely outmatched and refused to win by default, proudly conceding the match right there and declaring Hua the undisputed champion, a shocking victory that spread like wildfire through the streets, announcing the legendary return of the man who just humiliated the city's most feared combatant. But this glorious news quickly reached the ears of the tyrannical foreign dictator ruling the city, who was deeply infuriated to see their prize fighter crushed, refusing to let Hua inspire the oppressed locals any further. And in a desperate bid to crush Hua's spirit and restore their dominance, the dictator set up a brutal, advanced-level gauntlet, forcing Hua to fight 3 elite warriors back-to-back just to drain his life force before the main event. But Hua was no ordinary martial artist, channeling his ultimate power to effortlessly dust all 3 opponents, setting the stage for the final clash against the dictator's most lethal champion, a man who possessed incredible skill and honor, looking directly into Hua's eyes and acknowledging his greatness, stating that since Hua had just exhausted himself fighting 3 back-to-back matches, he too should fight 3 men to ensure their energy levels were perfectly equal, a deeply honorable gesture that left Hua completely stunned. Yet, with a confident smile, Hua politely declined, assuring the foreign champion that he was more than ready to fight as he was, prompting both titans to select their weapons and step into the arena. unleashing a breathtaking, evenly matched clash of steel that left the massive crowd in absolute awe, matching each other's relentless strikes as they constantly targeted each other's weaknesses without either warrior backing down, until a chaotic scramble forced them to accidentally swap weapons mid-fight, and while Hua masterfully wielded the foreigner's heavy sword with flawless precision, his opponent struggled to control Hua's complex three-section staff, prompting Hua to completely halt the fight just to toss the weapon back to its rightful owner. An ultimate display of sportsmanship before the intense first round finally ended in a breathless draw. But tragedy struck during the brief intermission when Hua took a sip from his resting cup, completely unaware that the dictator's ruthless men had secretly laced his drink with a deadly, fast-acting poison. And the moment the second round kicked off, the lethal venom took full effect, causing Hua to suddenly collapse and vomit dark blood onto the arena floor, abruptly halting the match as his honorable opponent realized exactly what had happened, feeling utterly disgusted that the cowardly politicians would resort to such despicable, dirty tactics to sabotage a legendary fighter. And though Hua desperately needed immediate medical attention, the ruthless officials only gave him a fleeting moment to rest, leaving Hua with a crushing, inescapable realization that he was not going to survive this day. But instead of fading away in a hospital bed, he chose to die a warrior's death in the ring, forcing his failing body back to its feet to the absolute delight of the wicked dictator, who wanted him dead anyway. And as the fight resumed, Hua unleashed a terrifying, primal ferocity, completely overwhelming his opponent with a blinding barrage of strikes that left no room for escape, finally pulling back his fist to deliver the exact same devastating, fatal punch that had once taken Master Qin's life. But right as his knuckles grazed his opponent's chest, a profound wave of enlightenment washed over him, causing him to instantly halt his strike mere inches from the man's heart, beautifully mirroring the exact same mercy his father had shown in the ring all those years ago. Realizing that this single, unstoppable blow would have instantly killed him, the foreign champion was entirely humbled, raising Hua's arm to the sky and loudly declaring him the undisputed victor right before Hua's poisoned body finally gave out, collapsing onto the arena floor as he drew his heroic final breath, leaving his opponent absolutely furious as he stormed over to the dictator to aggressively condemn him for murdering a true legend. And in a deeply emotional, tear-jerking final vision, we see Hua's spirit standing in the peaceful fields before Moon, performing his beautiful martial arts forms, and for the very first time, the gentle, blind girl can see him crystal clear, a breathtaking, bittersweet farewell to an undefeated titan who fought with honor until his very last heartbeat, a legendary, true story of redemption that you can still find in the history books today. And with that, our story comes to an end, so if you enjoyed this ride, make sure to smash that subscribe button, leave a like, and drop your thoughts down in the comments below, because I'd love to know what you think.